Good afternoon and welcome to our Wednesday weekly live coaching session in the Bold and Successful Women's Business Group, Business Owners Group. That's a mouthful. I am live today to talk about what are you doing? Is how you're managing your time really costing the profits in your business? Is it costing you? Are you getting the results that you want? And so we're going to be talking about taking control of your day and unleashing not only your productivity, but unleashing your results. So if you're joining live, say hi. If you're watching the replay, say #replay, and I'm just going to make sure I'm live. So if you're on live, let me know. I sometimes have some issues with this. Just give me 1 second so that I can see your comments and make sure that I know that you're here. So I'm just pulling it up to make sure you're live and that I can see everything going on. So I am live. If I don't see your comments, I apologize, but do stop by, say hi if you're watching live. And today we're going to be talking about taking control of your day and unleashing your productivity, which in turn creates the results you want in your business. And too often I see women entrepreneurs, business owners, especially in the online space, kind of spinning and not necessarily being intentional with their day. And I want to take this to a level where you're intentional of your week and what you do with your time, and then you fill in the tasks. So we're going to go through a system that I still have a freebie about, that I teach about one way to attack and take control of your day. So if you have any questions or comments, you're watching live, say hi. But it's really about being purposeful with your time. You know, we often hear people say, I wish I had more time fly by, etc. We can't change time. Time is something we have no control of, but we do have control with what we do with time. And one of the things that kind of happens often with entrepreneurs or business owners is we sometimes throw, to use an expression, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, we're no longer in a job. We don't have to work 9 to 5. And we throw out some of the really good skills that we learned that happens in a 9 to 5 job or a job where you're going. We get rid of those skills and we don't run with them and we don't bring them into our business. So we have a responsibility as a business owner to actually use some of the skills that we can take from the 9 to 5, from having a schedule, from having working hours. But we get to set our working hours forever we want. So there's 5 steps that I want to go through. And the first one is really creating your working hours. And what I suggest you do, so here's the joy as your own business owner, is you get to set working hours however you want to set them. So if you want to set working hours to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work from 4 o'clock in the morning to noon and then be off the rest of the day, you can do that. If you want to set working hours so you start at 11 o'clock and you work till 4 in the afternoon, you can do that. So one of the benefits of being self-employed, one of the benefits of having your own business is you get to set your working hours. Now, you may service people such that you need to have some core working hours to actually deliver your products and services depending on your business. You may have some core hours, but you get to set the hours that you work, but you need to have working hours. It balances out your energy. It allows you to know when you're working, when you're not working, because 2 things can happen. One is you're kind of spontaneously working, or the other one, you're working all the time. And neither of those are good for you. So having working hours is really good. And one of the things that I suggest you do to set your working hours is map out your energy levels. So this is the beauty of being self-employed, is we can do these things, particularly if you're online marketing, you're working from home. Map out your energy levels. And so one way to do this is to take like a 24-hour period of time. You can do this in a circle, you can do this in however you want, but map out 24 hours and map in your sleeping time. And I'm not going to go into the theory behind this, but there's a lot of evidence that we should sleep the same hours every night. So whatever, and have 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. But put your sleeping time in. So those are non-productive hours. They can be whatever you sleep. I'm a night person. So I'm not the person who's going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work. For those listening live, are you a night person, a morning person? What's your best time to work? When do you want to start work? But then with your working hours, use a scale from 1 to 5. 1 means really low energy. 5 means you're like at the most creative point in your day. and map out your 24-hour period about when those happen. Now, it's not going to happen every day, but we do all have a sense of, when our most productive times, and it can shift. So 10 years ago, I would have told you my most productive time, my most creative time was from 8 o'clock at night till midnight. I was really good at being creative in that time. That is no longer my most creative time. Not at all. It doesn't work anymore. My systems have changed. My lifestyle's changed. So therefore, that's not my creative time. And what I found recently is my most creative, high energy time for creativity, for that kind of thing, actually tends to be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 7. I have 2 really good creative chunky hours from about 4 to 7. So 2 to 3 hours of really chunky creativeness. Now, schedule a year and a half ago, I would have told you that was 11 to 2. So it can shift. Marie Claire, night, but working at getting to bed earlier. So far, so good, right? So sometimes we can adjust our working hours and train ourselves to be better. And sometimes we can't. Kim, morning or late night when working towards lead dine, midday and mid-evening, less so. So know your energy levels. So when you map out your energy levels, you can put activities into the spaces where you're the most energetic. So for me, post-lunch, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not my best time to be doing creative thinking, but it's absolutely my best time to be doing what I'm doing right now. Because going live, talking to clients, talking to people re-energizes me. I'm an extrovert. So this is the perfect time for me to schedule lives. It's my perfect time for me to schedule follow-up calls. It's a great time for me to do a meet and greet somebody if I want to do like a how are you call. It's a really good time for me to do the social interactions in my business. So doing that between, let's say, 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock is a really good time for me to do this. Right. So Kim says this is a great time to be listening to live. So like when you do this exercise of kind of knowing what you're doing and where your energy levels are, and then you start to set your working hours around that, you can start to leverage your time a lot better. So I don't start to work officially till 10 o'clock in the morning. I am not a morning person. So unless there's something that brings me or I have a need to do something before 10 in the morning, I don't do it. So 10 o'clock in the morning is my go-to work time. I have an alarm on my phone. My alarm goes off, it's up to work if I'm not already at work. Sometimes I show up at 9:30, but 10 o'clock is you got to be at work time. And in fact, so much so that my dog knows that it's time to go to work and she starts coming upstairs. But 10 o'clock is my work time. And so that's my start of my daytime. And it's usually, what do I need to do there? So what activities and what things can I do? But my working hours start at 10 o'clock and I shut my computer off at 7 at night. And I will take a 1 to 2 hour break in the middle of the day. So those are my working hours. So as an entrepreneur, set working hours for yourself. I don't work on weekends very often. I will do some social media stuff on weekends if it makes sense, but I try very hard not to work on weekends. But I have set working hours. And as entrepreneurs, we need to set our working hours. We need to know when we're going to work. It doesn't mean every day is like that, but it means that that's your target. Those are the hours that you want to work. And then within your working hours, we're going to talk about how to schedule your time. Do you guys have working hours? So if you're listening live on the replay, let me know. But have you set kind of working hours for yourself? Because it does make a difference in your productivity if you do that. Just out of curiosity, do you have working hours? Have you thought of that? So think about that. If you choose to work 4 hours a day and you can get the work that you want done in 4 hours a day, fantastic. That's a great business. And I know many really successful business owners who have been able to do that. Kim has working hours, so fantastic. So know that. It doesn't have to be 40 hours a week. It doesn't have to be 60 hours a week. It's whatever's right for you. And that's the joy and freedom of being an entrepreneur, is setting your working hours. Now, the next step 2, is to divide your time up. Think about let me get my thought together on this one. Think about what tasks you have to do. So what are the tasks that you have to do in your business? And we're kind of looking at the perfect week, not next week, but the perfect week of how you would divide up your stuff. So what tasks do you need to do with your business? Kim also has specific off hours. I do too now. I have very much specific off hours. I will occasionally go outside my off hours, like I'm doing an interview. It'll be in the group tonight at 7:30 because it's with somebody in Australia. And that is the only time we could get to work so that we could do this interview to let you guys know what an online business manager is. So that'll be on tonight at 7:30, but that's an example of rare that I do anything off hours. But you can do that. Yes, I own 2 companies, so IM is my school, and afternoons and some nights a couple of coaches. Wednesday is my spa afternoon. Oh, I love that. Are you having a spa afternoon right now? Am I part of your spa afternoon? But that's a great example. That's the cool part of being an entrepreneur, is you can have Wednesday as your spa afternoon. So step number 2 is divide your tasks into what tasks you need to do. So I'm going to give you some ones that most businesses need to do. They may or may not fit you, but kind of blocking time and knowing the tasks that you need to do is really important to do. So number 1, we all have to do sales. There has to be sales activity that we're doing. And blocking off chunks where you're focused on sales activity and marketing, that will move your business forward. So sales is one. Servicing clients is another. So once we sell whatever we do, whether it's products or services, there is some service, some delivery of our products and services that we have to factor time in for. So factoring in the chunks of time that you do that particular work is important. Operations. So we all have some operations we need to do in our business, some consistent things, and as an online business, it may be not as much as if you owned a physical brick and mortar store, or you had a huge employee base, but you still have operational things that you need to do, right? And when we don't do them, they end up being a headache. For example, if we don't keep up on our accounting, then all of a sudden we're spinning at some point in time to do our accounting. So there's operational things that we need to do. There is also, I have a document here and I'm going to forget one, so give me one sec. There's operational, I'm trying to think, administration. There's people things we need to do. So building your network, talking to people, doing stuff like that. There is social media, administration. So whatever your chunks are. So what are your big chunks that you need to do? And then putting them in your schedule will be part of it. So for example, social media can be 100% consuming if that's your marketing channel. But when you chunk it down and you say, well, I'm going to do social media 3 times a day for 20 minutes a day, and I'm going to schedule that in. I'm going to put a chunk in my calendar of 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at lunchtime, and 20 minutes in the evening. And that's, by the way, what I have in my calendar. So the first thing when I come up in the morning is I do an administration review of a to-do list of what I want to do that day. Then I allocate some time to social media and trying to, to make sure that things are where I want, my posts are up, I'm doing what I want to do. And then I try to turn that off. I do not always succeed, but I try to turn off the social media and only come back to it at particular points in time. And what happens when you do that is you're actually, the time that you put into that social media activity, which to me is marketing, by the way. If you're on social media, your intention should be to marketing. If you're being social on social media, then that's more personal. If you're being social and marketing, then you can market on social media. Now, if you're doing it to learn, to grow yourself, that's part of your business operations, to learn and to do new things, then that's okay too. You schedule watching people's live. All of it's part of your business. It's just being a little more conscious about it. Great plan. Social media can suck us up. Yes, it absolutely can. And it can be like an interrupt. Imagine if somebody actually sat outside your door and rang your doorbell every second and just went da-ding, 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 da-ding. And that's what social media did to us, right? But we don't think of it that way. So we don't want somebody ringing our doorbell every second. And social media is probably doing it even microseconds. It's a huge interrupt on our productivity. So learning to turn that off and allowing yourself to come to social media with purpose, to come to your marketing channels with purpose, and recognize when you're doing it for enjoyment, when you're doing it for learning, and when you're actually doing it to market your business. Because you can do this is the other side of this, is when you do this purposefully, you can do a lot of marketing of your business in a half an hour when you're going to social media with the purpose of marketing your business. right? You can do a live for 15 minutes. You can go post a bunch of long story posts in other groups. You can go in and interact and make some intelligent comments on other people's posts. When you do it with intention, you can actually get a lot done in a 30-minute time frame. So being intentional is really good on that. So find your blocks. Think about 4 to 5 blocks that you have in your business. If you're working with clients, then we have a client block. If you're teaching, then you have a teaching block, right? You know when your time needs to be allocated to the actual doing of whatever you sell. So when do you allocate time around that to do the sales part? Because if you don't do the sales part, then what ends up happening, and this has happened to me, when you take your eye off your future sales, you get no future sales. So it's important to have that marketing and sales part as one of your top priorities in your calendar. So number 3 is actually to take a blank calendar, and I should have come in through Zoom, but to take a blank calendar, like a 7-day calendar, just a blank piece of paper with your working hours on it, and start to schedule in your blocks. Now I use Google. If you guys use Google to manage your calendar, if you use something equivalent to that, if you use a piece of paper, look at what your ideal week would be. So, and then if you're using Google, if you're using a piece of paper, color coordinate it. And that's a really effective way to block it. So for example, I'll give you a little rundown of mine because it will help explain it. So Monday morning, from 10 o'clock, I said I start my days at 10. So from 10 to noon on Mondays, that time is blocked off for me to work on my business, to get my week set up. So it has time to plan my week in there. It also has time to create some social media strategies and some social media content that will be used throughout my week. So that's my Monday morning. I don't schedule any openings for people to book calls with me. I don't schedule anything else for Monday morning. That is my Monday morning. And my Monday afternoon is creative time. I learned for myself, I needed to call that time creative because that sparks my interest. And that's the time where I would work potentially on more in-depth social media posts, more content. It's the time where I might work on the strategies of what I need to do. If I'm working on a campaign to put out, I'll work on the emails for that. If I'm creating a new freebie, I'll do that. It's just creative time. And I do that on Mondays. So my Mondays don't have a lot of outside client type work. Now my paying clients can book time with me Monday afternoon, but it's reserved for creative time for the most part. Does that make sense in that just giving through that day? So I need to think of the time where I'm working on my business as being creative because that stimulates me. You can use whatever word makes sense for you, but blocking off creative time helps me stay focused because it excites me. It energizes me. So that's kind of my Monday, but every morning at 10 o'clock, I do administration tasks. And then at 10:30, I do social media check-in. And I'm not always disciplined on this. I'll admit to it. I do social media check-in scheduled just before lunch. So it's kind of like a break from my day just before lunch. And then before my day is up, the last thing I do is social media check-in again. And some administration. Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? No. Well, when is it going to move to? So I have a check-in at the beginning of the week for my whole week. I have a check-in at the end of the week as well. But each day I do a little bit of a check-in to make sure things are running smoothly, that I'm actually doing it. And I do social media check-ins 3 times a day. Totally admit I do not always have enough discipline. I probably check social media more often than that. But I'm trying to get back to doing it in the chunks because I do find it a lot more effective. Then on Tuesdays and Thursdays are my doing business days. So Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, Wednesday afternoons are my doing business, which means coaching clients, working with group clients, running programs, things like that happen in those blocks. If I don't have clients booked, then they get used for sales. That's what the intention is. If I don't have clients booked, then I need to be doing some sales activities. Have you ever used an SM Block type app? No, I haven't. I'm not sure exactly what an SM Block type app is. You mean blocking social media? Turning things off like that so that you can't go into them at certain times? that's one you mean, no, I haven't used one. I have heard of them, but I haven't used one. Yes, yeah. No, I haven't used one. One of the things that I use, I'm one of these people who opens way too many windows, and I use it more as a bookmark. So if I see, one of the things that I do, if I see something on social media that I want to read, or I see a video that I want to watch, instead of going down the rat hole of going and watching that video, I will open a new tab to it and I'll hide the tab. So there's something called OneTab. If you're not familiar with OneTab, it's an extension on Chrome that allows you to do that. So you can kind of bookmark it and hide it. I will do that. I actually don't use my phone when I'm working. My phone is kind of not part of it. So it's more my habit of tabs that I could get better at. I turn all my alerts off on my phone. So we're going to talk about that in the next step. I turn everything off on my phone, and I just use I'm a bit old school in the sense that I prefer to work on my laptop than my phone. But yes, you have to find the system that works for you to turn off stuff. And it's really, and the reason that I wanted to talk about the blocking your time like this, because your blocks are going to be different than mine. But I do have client time block 3 times a week at least. Now, if I don't have clients in those blocks, I need to be doing sales because I need to fill those blocks up. It's a really good philosophy to get into. These are my client times. And however you work with clients, your block should reflect that. So if you want to work with 10 coaching clients a week, and then, so that's 10 hours a week that you're coaching, and just using that as an easy example for a coach, then if you don't have 10 clients booked, you should be using that time to go and get the clients to book it. Right? So if you want to teach 10 art classes, if you want to teach 4 art classes a week, and you don't have those 4 art classes filled and booked, then you need to go and find and bring in the clients to do that so that you can fill up your schedule. It's a great kind of philosophy to have, to say, if this is what my goal is, and I haven't used, and I'm not using that time to deliver the goal because I don't have enough people in it, then what am I doing to fill up the program? So that's another great way to kind of think of how to use your time. I also have people time in my schedule. So people time is for me to go out and just I had a call yesterday with someone who reached out and wanted to ask some questions. It wasn't work related per se. She actually gave me some amazing tips for Instagram, so it was beneficial, but I didn't know what was going to happen with that. I was willing to help her out. She had asked to talk to somebody about their experience with Instagram. I was willing to help her out. It was kind of a people exercise. In the end, it was really beneficial, but I didn't know that was going to happen. So I do have people time. And then I also have flex time. And flex time is for whatever, life doesn't always work out the way you want. Your week's not always going the way you want. So my whole Friday afternoon is flex time. So that's to catch up on stuff and do stuff. But I also have flex time built in on other days too. Love this idea to stay balanced. Exactly. It's about being balanced, Marie-Claire. It's about recognizing that as entrepreneurs, we need to work, and we need to work on very specific things if we want to grow our business and be successful. So how do we create that week schedule? It doesn't mean every week's going to be that way. If you're doing something intense, then your week is going to change if you have something coming up, but it gives you a target to aim for, and it gives us some discipline. And let's be realistic. Most of us need a little bit of discipline. We need a little bit of kind of targets and discipline to get to. And it gives us some discipline when you block out your time and you have an ideal calendar. I use Google to do it. So I've had a bit of a challenge with my scheduling tool. So I've had to turn my blocks into free time so that people can book calls during that. So I have to be conscious to make sure that my blocks are scheduled and such. But if you were to look at my Google Calendar, 6 months from now, it's blocked out. But like I said, I've had to be a little more conscious of turning things to free so people can book into those times, but my schedule is blocked out. So it gives me a target to aim to. Do I go in the week of and move things around? Absolutely. But it gives me a target to aim to. It gives me some discipline to have hours to work on, to turn off my computer and say, the day's up. I didn't get everything done I wanted to do, but the day's up. It's time to go, instead of staying and working and really exhausting yourself. And when you do that, I don't think you get better results. I actually think you get worse results because you're not focused. So that was number 3. Yeah, create your schedule. I'm looking at my numbers here. Does that make sense? about really thinking and intentionally blocking off your time. It's a real powerful way to create it. The other thing I would suggest about this is to revisit that every 2 to 3 months, because we do change. Like I said, a year ago, my most energetic time was at a very different time than it is now. Now, so much has happened in the last year, that's probably why, or so little has happened in some respects. As we've been kind of shut in our house, some of the things that might have dictated my schedule before have gone away, but they're probably going to come back, right? So they're probably going to come back, and I might jiggle my schedule a little bit. So it's good to come back and revisit this. But ask yourself, is this still the right one for me and for my energy and what's going on in my life? And you might have a slightly different one for the summer than you do in the winter, right? You may have slightly, you know, often people, I have to even say as a night person, I wake up earlier in the summer than I do in the winter because it's lighter out. So jiggling your schedule seasonally might make sense for you as well. If you have kids, it probably makes sense. But creating a goal is really empowering. And step number 2 is to create your success rules. And we've talked a little bit about them with your suggestion of using a social media app. Number 1, turn off your alerts. Like I said, you don't want somebody sitting there ringing your front doorbell every second. Ring, 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 get my attention, hands up, whatever, right? So turn off your alerts on your phone and on your computer. I have no alerts on my computer, except the only alert that I will get on my computer is if somebody messages me on Messenger. And I'll usually ignore those until I get a chance. I have no alerts on my phone when I'm working. So turn off your alerts, because they are really somebody ringing their doorbell all the time at you, and it doesn't give you any focus. The next one is do a check-in. So each day in the morning, at the beginning of the day, do a check-in. Really write your to-do list or whatever you need. I do a check-in at the beginning of the week where I decide what I need to accomplish this week. I break it down, I schedule it out, and then I work with that each day. And at the end of the week, I do an honest assessment of, did I actually do what I wanted to do? Some weeks the answer is yes, I did more, and some weeks the answer is no, I didn't do what I wanted to do. It gives me a chance to actually say what's working and what's not working. So doing that. Creating a closed door do not disturb policy, and creating a closed door do not disturb policy for other people and for yourself, because often we're the person who disturbs ourselves the most. By, you know I have the challenge of, I'll see something and then I'll have a thought and I'll go open a tab and I'll start to go down that rat hole, and 20 minutes, half an hour has gone by and I'm not even focusing on what I started off in the first place. So having a do not disturb policy for yourself is a really powerful way to use your time. And having a do not disturb policy if you do work in the house with other people, which is like, for this half an hour, I am going to be focused, or hour, I am focused on the tasks that I'm doing, and I have a do not disturb policy. So when mom's door is closed, right, or hubby, when my door is closed, I am not going to be doing anything else. That's my do not disturb policy. Your phones are on silent. Your alerts are off. You don't open emails, right? We haven't talked a lot about emails because social media seems to be more disturbing, but the reality is emails can be as well. So you can have your social media time and your email time, because there's not very many things that we need to respond to instantaneously. So we can put those things on hold and come back and have that administration social media time, check emails, respond to emails, do your social media work, and have that as 2 to 3 blocks a day really contains them. Put a timer on. I don't know how many people ever work with timers, but putting a timer on and saying, for this 30 minutes, I am going to focus on this task, or for this 45 minutes. There's some evidence out there that we're not really good at concentrating for more than a certain amount of time. So after 45 minutes, you kind of got to get up and stretch and jiggle around and then come back and work on it. But having a timer, it focuses you, right? Put the timer on and say, I got to get this task done. I'm going to work really hard on this for this amount of time can be a great way to focus you. So it's about setting yourself up for success. Think about all the things that disturb you, that pull you off target, and what helps you focus. Because as much as we think we're multitaskers, we're really not. The human brain is actually the best when it focuses on one thing at a time. So having some set concentrated working time, I used to call it the power hour. If you can do 2 power hours a day in your business, you will be amazed at what you can actually create. So a power hour is that you have a task that you decide to work on for an hour, you turn off everything else, and in that hour, you are focused on that task. So if you're in the midst of writing social media content, let's just use that as an example, and you have a power hour to write social media content 2 to 3 times a week, all this, the challenges around social media content will go away. If you have a power hour to write your emails for the week, to write your book if you're writing a book, to create content for a program you're delivering, whatever it is that you need to create and work, power hours are phenomenal. And using a timer helps focus you. There's also another method called the Pomodoro method. Love the power hour. We'll use that. Kim, it's really, really effective. A power hour, it's just kind of a way of shutting up. And you don't need, the cool part about creating power hours is that you don't need more than a few a week. If you can do 2 power hours a day, that's 10 hours of focused work on your business. Imagine what you could do if you had 10 hours of focused work on your business. Now, if you choose to do 1 a day, that's 5 hours of focused work. And if we're all honest with ourselves, how often do we actually work 5 hours really focused on whatever activities we want in our business without intention? It's not that often. So having power hours can really, really leapfrog stuff. And it can also really help you, because if you're focused for an hour on creating like social media content, for example, you can create a lot in an hour. You get on a flow. You get in flow, it starts to come easily. If you're starting from one article, let's say, and you want to spawn off a whole bunch of social media content, you can probably do 20 or 30 posts in a power hour without much difficulty. And when you're doing them at the last moment, it takes a lot of time. Once I get into flow, it's easy, but committing to and making myself do it, having turned everything off, will be good for me. It is. The other thing to do, Kim, if it's a challenge because I can be this way, so I'll say this for myself. If it's a challenge to commit to myself to actually do the work, the best way that I can commit myself, and this is knowing myself, is to commit to somebody else. To say, hey, my accountability partner, hey, friend out there, I am going to work on this for an hour. I'm just letting you know so that I can commit with you, and I'm going to come back in an hour and tell you what I got done. You don't even have to listen or care, but I'm just doing that external commitment can sometimes really help commit to ourselves and get it done. But power hours, start with 1 a day. You'll be amazed what it can do for you. So that's another great way to do things. So have that closed door method. Have that thing, that power hour. Turn off your distractions. And focus can really make a difference on your productivity, which makes a difference in your results for your business. You don't have to, and in fact, by doing some of this stuff, you can actually find that you work less because you're turning off the busy work and you're getting into the work that actually makes a difference to your business. The busy stuff, the stuff that can consume us, isn't always the right thing for our mind, but we go there because it's the less challenging, sometimes the easier. It's kind of a place where we can hide sometimes. I was busy all day. I was on social media all day, but was I working on my business, or I was kind of hiding from the things that I didn't want to do? So the power hour and having some discipline can really work. And step number 5 is commit to it. Create a plan, like a blocked off plan. And given that it's the end of June, end of the second quarter of the year, it's a really great thing to do is to create this plan and then say for the next 30 days, for the next 60 days, I am going to work this and I'm going to tweak it so that I can come up with my optimal day, my optimal plan for my week so that I can work less hours and get more results. That's kind of what we all want. We're either going to work the same hours and get more results, or maybe even work less hours and get results. And this is one of the key steps in really planning out your next 90 days. Love that distinction, busy versus working intentionally. Exactly. It's about the difference between being busy, and I've had them. I've had days, and you know what I've noticed for me? So I'll share a personal story on this one, is I can be really busy and have a day where I'm on social media, I'm learning, I kind of get into the like to figure it out mode. And the day's gone by and I come back the next morning and I look and I go, what did I actually do yesterday? What did I do that was a good business decision? What did I do that was going to grow my business? And not much, right? In all honesty, when I look at a day like that, it's not much, and it's really demotivating. If I can look back at a day and say, wow, I got this done, I reached out to this person, that person called me, I got all of this done, all my social media is done, whatever it is that I need to do, when I have a day like that, I'm energized for the next day. But when I have a busy day without intention, it actually draws my energy down. So being aware of that can really help you focus your energy in the right way. And so that's why I love this topic. I love the topic of planning out, because we have to take the things that large corporations do well, that having a 9-to-5 job is well. We are, if I go back to the days that I had a 9-to-5 job, I was much more intentional about my time and what I was doing with it than sometimes I am as self-employed, because we have that freedom. The joy of self-employment is freedom, but not necessarily the freedom that we think it is. So putting it together and creating a schedule that's productive is you'll work less time and you'll get better results. And so that's really the intention of what I want to talk about today is and that's why I called it Take Control of Your Day. You get to control your day. You get to control the things that you actually do on a daily basis, which is going to give you the results you want. So if you're not getting the results you want in your business, the first place to look at is what you're doing on a daily basis to get there. And that's that important part about it. And the second part about it is really planning what you're going to fill in these blocks. So we kind of talked about blocks. So the next part is planning your blocks and figuring out what's going to go in each block. And if you're interested, that is what I'm doing next week. Yes, next week on June 29th is I'm doing a one-day workshop called Accelerator, and it's to create your 90-day success plan. So we're going to do a little bit about this, but it's really about what do you want in the next 90 days? How can we break it down to the activities that you want to do so that you actually get the results that you want? Because 90 days will fly by very quickly. It'll be September, the end of September, before we know it, sadly. And if we continue to kind of run at the pace that we're running, then our results tend to be the same. So what do you need to do in the next 90 days? What's your goal, both financially and for what you want for your business, financially and other things like the impact and what you want to do? We're going to be setting that goal, breaking that down to actually what you want to do, simplifying it, and then fitting it into your ideal day so that you're working more intentionally, you're getting the results you want. It doesn't need to be complicated. 90 days is not a lot of time. So 3 or 4 big goals in 90 days could give you the results that you want. It could exponentially grow your business. So that's what it is. I'm going to put the link in the comments after I get off. If you're interested in it, let me know. It's going to be, it starts at 11 to 5. Yes, 11 Eastern to 5. I was trying to find a time that worked for all time zones. I did the best that I could. So it starts at 11 Eastern to 5. It is a roll up your sleeves, get it done workshop. It's not training per se. It is an interactive workshop. So at the end of the day, you come out of it with a plan of what you're going to do for the next 90 days to hit whatever revenue target you set. And we're going to start with a revenue target. So whatever revenue target you set, we're going to break that down into a plan, into action items. So that's what's coming up for me. And it's called Accelerator, and I will put the link in the comments. But going back to taking control of your day, the 5 steps are, number 1 is create business hours. Be the flexible entrepreneur you want to be, but create working hours for yourself and try to design it upon your energy levels and the demands on your life. So if you have kids that you've got to get to school at 7 o'clock in the morning, although summer's coming up, so you're not necessarily going to have kids that you need to get to school. But if you had kids you needed to get to school, what are the times that you need to plan? So plan, number 1, your working hours. Number 2 is think about the big chunks that you need to do on a weekly basis and block off time. And number 3 is create your schedule of control. So you have that schedule that you try to aim for. If you're using online Google, then create all the blocks. And I wish I should have gone on through Zoom because I could have showed you mine. But create all your blocks and color code them. I use purple for my creative time because it energizes me. There's 10 colors in Google, I think. So if you're using paper, then you can use different color pens, whatever makes sense to you, whatever energizes you. Create your ideal kind of block schedules that you aim for. Number 4 is set yourself up for success. Turn off the distractions, turn off the alarms. Don't let somebody ring your doorbell all the time. Turn off all of that. Use a timer, create power hours. Use a timer so that you're really focused for that hour. And then number 5 is commit to it. Give it a try. Do the schedule, set it up, and then commit to it and say, for the next 30 days, I'm going to work this schedule. I'm going to tweak it, but I'm going to commit myself to this schedule. And then use that one and commit to that for the next 60 days. And see what it does for your business. And check yourself each day and say, okay, it's noon, I'm going for lunch, or whatever time you go for lunch. Did I work my schedule or did I get distracted? Because asking yourself that is going to give you a lot more focus and a lot more results for your business. And generally speaking, if you want to be successful in business, you want to create the lifestyle you want, you need to make sales. So if what you're doing isn't contributing to you making sales, then ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Like, if I've spent an hour working on something and you can't see a direct line to making sales or servicing a client that you have, then why are you doing that exercise? Now, some of it might be self-improvement. Thank you for listening to me. You're here, you're learning, you can apply it. That's okay. I watch a lot of webinars. I watch a lot of learning. I have a learning block in my life. So learning is part of the process. But think about and catch yourself when it's too much of the process. If you're spending an entire day learning and you're not producing, then that's not a good balance either. And that's why all my workshops are really hands-on, in the sense that I want people to be able to get results and see that. I'm a learning addict. You know what, Kim? There are tons of learning addicts online. It's funny, I'm not a learning addict, I'm a study addict. And I know that sounds different. I actually like to study how other people do things. So that to me can be my catch. Because if I see something put up a challenge, I'm actually not usually interested in the challenge. I'm interested in how did they do the challenge. So I tend to have that, and I have to balance that off. So I have to kind of say no. In fact, I'm a complete opposite of a learning addict. Half the time I sign up for stuff and it's like an hour webinar and I'm like, oh no, I've heard that before. But I'm always interested in the method to which they do it, to see how I can do my stuff better, how can I market better, how can I train better. So I have that addict and I need to check it, but not eliminate it, because if we eliminate it, then we're not being ourselves, right? If we eliminate that and we don't do that, then we're not being true to ourselves either. So how do you balance it? How do you give yourself a learning addict budget of time and say and you can reward yourself with it too, right? If I've done everything on my to-do list, I've done all the activities I want to do today, I've done my 4 or 5 sales activity, I get to go learn, right? So you can reward the addict as a prize, as opposed to let the addict draw you out, which is another way to look at it, right? It's kind of that reward system, Pavlov dog thing. So we have to control our addict, Kim, so that it doesn't pull us off from doing the things that we do. So I'm much more purposeful about that now. And I do have time in the morning where I can do some stuff, and I have time in the afternoon to try and not be pulled in all directions. I never allow myself to sign up for more than one kind of main training thing per week is another way to control it as well. So think about that. Those are some ideas on how to control our addicts, because we have them, right? If we have them, we might as well acknowledge they're there and then figure out how to balance it between sales, growing our business, creating the results that we want, servicing more people, and having the fun and kind of the energy that gives us. I don't know if that's helpful, Kim, but try and get the addict to have its own time. and get the results that we want. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, ladies. Any questions? If you did listen to the replay, #replay. If you're interested in the 90-day planning workshop next Tuesday on June 29th, let me know. I'll put the link in the comments when I get off. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know. I hope it was useful to try and think about your day a little more structured and still be the rebel entrepreneur that you are. Right? Most entrepreneurs have a little bit of rebel in us. I fully admit to being a rebel. So it's allowing your rebel to be rebellious in the right ways and allowing you to leverage discipline so that you can get the results you want, so that your rebel can have more opportunities to be rebellious. Any other questions or comments that I can answer? There's always a bit of a delay. No? Yes? No? No? Thank you. Thank you for being on live with me, Kim and Mary Claire. And for anybody listening to the replay, thank you. Thank you. The Power Hour. The Power Hour chunking and turning off alerts are my prime takeaways. Yes, Kim. Turn off alerts. Do the Power Hour. If you need accountability for your Power Hour, reach out to somebody. If you want to message me and say, Heather, I'm doing a Power Hour, I'll check back in an hour. You're welcome to do that. Thanks. Now I'm pumped to get discipline. Good, Mary Claire. A little bit of discipline never hurt anybody when the reward, it's tying the discipline to the reward, right? We get to make more money in our businesses, create the lifestyle we want, and we get to serve more people and have more impact with a tiny little bit of discipline. And that's really the key to all this. A tiny little discipline allows us to have the outcomes that we want for ourselves and for others. And so that's a way to put it into a sense of award, a sense of awarding ourselves by having that discipline. So thank you, ladies. Have fun with your Power Hours and your discipline. I appreciate you, and I will put the link for the 90-day workshop in the comments, and I'll be back next week. Thanks. Bye.